guys, my name is Tiffany and welcome back to Upcycle by Little Toe, where I take old forgotten items and give them a new life. I've actually gotten several requests to recreate the Reformation Juliette dress, so in this video I'm going to show you how I turned this $1 thrifted dress into this Reformation inspired dress. If you like thrift flips, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my videos, and let's get started with this one. Let's take a quick look at the dress I'll be upcycling. I bought this dress because it was only $1 and I absolutely adore this floral print. The cut of this dress is honestly not awful, it's just slightly big on me and a little bit dated. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be recreating the Reformation Juliette dress, so let's take a quick look at all of the details. The Reformation Juliette dress retails for $218. It has a bustier style bodice, which I think is so beautiful and flattering. It has a relaxed midi-length skirt that has a slit along the left leg. The Juliette dress also features these dainty straps that tie in the back and has an invisible zipper closure in this shirred section along the center back. I'm gonna go ahead and start by removing all of the buttons, and then I'm gonna cut off the section that I'll need for the skirt. I've gone ahead and removed all of the buttons, and I've also pinned the front and back pieces of the dress along the hem and along the top and bottom sections of the waist. This ensures that this top layer and this bottom layer won't shift as I cut along the waist. Using an air erasable marker and my measuring tape, I measure and mark at 30.5 inches from the hem and work my way across. Using my ruler, I join the marks I just made. Cut, being careful that the top and bottom layers don't shift as you're cutting. Because of the way this bodice is built, I'm actually going to be using a bra pattern that I found online for free. I'm gonna link that down below to recreate the bodice of the Juliette dress. So let's take a quick look at that. This is the pattern I'll be using. I chose this pattern to use as a guide because the shape of this bra cup specifically is pretty similar to the ones of the Juliette dress. This website is pretty awesome. You enter your size and submit your email address, and a PDF pattern that looks like this will be sent to you in the size that you requested. I've printed and cut out all of the pattern pieces, and this is what the full bra pattern looks like. But to make my dress, I'll only be using these 3 pieces. As you can see here, all 3 pieces have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'll be leaving these 2 pieces as is, but I'll be modifying this top piece slightly. Using parchment paper, I trace out this side, the bottom, as well as the other side, making sure I also copy this notch in the pattern. I want my straps to sit a little wider than the original straps of the bra, so I'm drawing a line and extending this top section by 1 inch. Now I'm going to join these 2 points with a line. Cut out the modified pattern piece, and these are the pattern pieces for the cups of the dress. For the rest of the bodice, I'll be using this pattern that I made last year to make this dress. I'll link the tutorial for this dress down below if you want to see how I drafted the pattern, but another option is to use the band of the bra pattern from earlier and extend these points down, lengthening it into a top. Daisy was kind enough to keep me company as I seam ripped the original top of the dress apart. Here are all my bodice pieces laid out, and here are my fabric pieces cut out accordingly. As you can see here, my center front piece was cut on fold, and the center back piece is about 2 inches wider than my center back pattern piece to accommodate for the shirring. If you've seen any of my older videos, specifically the video where I made this dress, you'll know that I tried shirring last year and it was an epic fail. But I did get a new sewing machine over Christmas, and I tried it on a little bit of scrap fabric and it works. So I think I'm finally ready to try shirring on an actual project, and I'm just hoping for the best. Then I cut out all of the fabric pieces for the other side. I'm going to start by assembling the bra cups. Using the original pattern as a guide, I mark these notches onto the corresponding fabric pieces. Then I'll line up these notches and pin the 2 pieces right sides facing. Continue to pin along the entire curve of the cup. And it should look something like this. Now I'm just going to make these tiny cuts as close as I can to the seam so that everything lays nice and flat when I press the seam allowance open. I've pressed the seam allowance open, and I've also top stitched along both sides of the seam to ensure that the seam allowance will stay open and flat. Using this pattern piece, again I transfer the notch onto the fabric. I'll line up this notch to the seam of the cup. Pin to secure and then sew together. Once sewn, it should look something like this. I've pushed the seam allowance towards the top, and I'm going to top stitch along the top of the seam to secure the seam allowance in place. Here is what the bra cup should look like. Go ahead and sew the other side. Here is a closer look at the bra cups. I wanted to quickly mention that I did add fusible interfacing to just the cut pieces because this material is pretty lightweight and I don't want to have to wear a bra with this dress, so I just wanted to give the cups a little more structure. Here are all the pieces for the front of the top. Sew together and it should look something like this. For clarification on which cup is left and which cup is right, this is the larger side of the cup and this is the smaller side. Make sure the smaller side is placed towards the center of the cradle. Place the cups making sure that the seams of the top line up with the seams of the cups. Pin and sew together. Here is what the front of the top looks like now. Here are all the pieces for the back of the top, and here it is sewn together. Place these pieces right side spacing, sew together along this side seam, and this is what the top should look like now. I've also made a facing piece to cover the raw edges along the top, but before I sew the facing to the top, I'm going to make the straps. To make the straps, I cut out a piece of fabric that's 3/4 of an inch wide. I fold the fabric in half lengthways, wrong side spacing, and press. Then I fold the bottom edge to the center, as well as the top edge to the center, again wrong side spacing, and press. I've also folded the end of this side under so that the raw edge on this end will be hidden. Sew along the entire length of the straps to secure, and here is the first dainty strap. Go ahead and make 3 more. As you can see here, I have 2 shorter straps that measure 18 inches and 2 longer ones that measure 31 inches. I'm pinning the shorter straps to the back of the top and the longer straps to the front of the top, making sure that I'm pinning the unfinished edge of the straps to the top. Sew, and you should have something that looks like this. To mimic the look of the original Juliette dress, I'm tying the end of each strap into a knot. Now I'm placing my top right side spacing and sewing just the top of this side seam about 2 inches down. Here is the top sewn together, and as you can see here, I've left most of the side seam open so I can install the zipper here later. I've also sewn my facing pieces together, and now I'm placing it on the top right side spacing. Pin to secure and sew all the way around. Now that the facing is sewn to the top, I'm folding the facing under and then understitching the facing to the seam allowance to ensure that the facing stays on the inside of the dress. I gave everything a good press, and here is what the top looks like now. Moving on to the skirt. I've actually seam ripped the entire skirt piece from earlier, and here are all of the pieces laid out. Now, using my top pieces as a guide, I'm just trimming down the width of each individual skirt panel, making sure that they line up with the width of its corresponding top piece. I wanted to quickly mention that this step is completely optional. I just get crazy OCD when I sew, and I'm really particular about the way my seams line up, so I'm taking this additional step to make sure that all the panels of my top match the panels of my skirt. But if this doesn't bother you, you can just go ahead and sew the original skirt to your new top piece. Here is the front of my skirt, and it is made out of 3 panels. These 2 panels are joined by this seam, and these 2 are joined by this seam, which I've only sewn till this point to create the slit along the left leg. Now, I'm just double checking to make sure that the seams of the skirt and the top line up. Moving on to the back of the skirt, which is made out of 4 panels. Again, I'm just making sure that all of the seams on my skirt line up with the seams on the back of the top. I'm placing my skirt pieces right side spacing, and I'll sew this side seam together. But on this side, I'll only sew the side seam from this point to the hem, since this is where the zipper will be. I also ironed on these 2 strips of fusible interfacing to this section of the fabric to add a little bit of stability for the zipper. I've sewn my skirt pieces together, making sure to leave this side seam open for the zipper. Now I'm placing my top on my skirt, right side spacing along the waist, and pinning, making sure that all of the seams line up and sew. Look at these sexy seams. Now that the dress is sewn together, I'm going to go ahead and install the invisible zipper on this side. I've just installed the zipper onto the side of my dress, and I did want to mention that the Reformation Juliette dress does have a zipper in the center back, but the thought of having shirring and the zipper in the same place was just giving me anxiety, so that's why I opted to have my zipper on the side of my dress instead. But now that my zipper is installed, that means that it's time for the dreaded shirring, and I don't know why I'm so nervous about it, but I'm just gonna go for it and hope for the best. With an air erasable marker and ruler, I draw guidelines 1/2 inch apart on the center back section of the top. I have my elastic thread that I hand wound in the bobbin, my tension is set at 5, and the stitch length is at a 4, which is the longest stitch available on my machine. At this point, I'm just trying not to think of all the tension problems I had the last time I tried shirring, but here goes nothing. Just kidding, I'm still not quite ready. Deep breath. Okay, let's do this. Here's where the anxiety kicks in, and I'm just hoping that this works, so thank you, sewing gods, because it did. Obviously in disbelief, so I'm just checking the stitch to make sure that it actually worked. This is what the shirt section looked like at the halfway point, and I just kept sewing rows until I reached the waist. Look how good this looks. I don't know why I had so much trouble shirring last year. I think it might have been my machine, but I'm not gonna question it because I did it. It looks amazing, and I think I'm finally over my fear of shirring, and all I have left to do now is hem the bottom of the dress. I hemmed the dress by folding the raw edge over twice and then sewing to secure. Last step is to tie the straps into these bows, and here is my version of the Reformation Juliette dress. I am beyond pleased with how this dress turned out. I think it is so beautiful, and I feel extra accomplished because I can now add shirring to my sewing resume. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more photos of this dress, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Little Toe. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments below if there's anything else you'd like me to recreate. As always, thank you so much for watching.